So today we spoke to actor and comedian Toby Hadoke, but before we go to the interview, let's have a little look at him in action.
In a box. What is this? It's your 45th birthday, and you've been saving this up for the past 5 years.
First date. Oh, good. I like your move, sir. You've brought her to a place where you're obliged not to have a conversation. I like that.
I was dreading today, and a lovely lady comes along and makes it all okay.
I'm just lucky you found me.
No such thing as luck. You're born one way or the other. It's fate.
Hi and welcome my first guest of the day today. Ladies and gents, please welcome Mr. Toby Hadoke. How are you, Toby?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm very, very well, thank you. Not too bad at all, actually. How are you coping with this whole sort of lockdown situation we're going through at the moment?
Well, I'm still in my pyjamas and I don't feel remotely guilty.
There's nothing wrong with that. I think a lot of people have been spending most of their days so far in pyjamas or leisure wear. It's been one of those. There was been a few times on these broadcasters in America, and the biggest question I've been getting asked is, are you wearing pants? While I've been broadcasting like this. I mean, I am wearing jeans, just so we know. But yeah, so God, we must have met it's got to be nearly 20 years ago now.
Really?
Which it suddenly occurred to me earlier on. We think it was Bar Excess we met originally. You were doing comedy night there, and I was one of the DJs down there. But Excess Malarkey, that's still going now.
It is. It's on every Tuesday night, even in lockdown. I'm told now we were the first, because the lockdown was sort of announced or kicked in on a Monday, and we had a gig due on the Tuesday. We got the various acts who were due on to send us their sets or links to them doing something on YouTube or some sketches that they'd done, and I recorded some sort of MCing to camera from my bedroom, and they sort of knitted that together and sent links out, and that was on the Tuesday. So the punters who would have been there got a show, although it was very sort of piecemeal and primitive, but there was a show and all the acts who were supposed to be on were featured. And then by the following week, God bless Roz and John and Hannah and the people who sort of do all the technical stuff at the show and book the acts. We had a show, we had a channel on Twitch, and we did it live. We did the night, albeit people tailoring their material or doing something a bit different. And so I think we were the first comedy club to sort of go into sort of online on lockdown and replace the live show with an online show, and we've been doing that every Tuesday since, and we've been doing an extra Sunday show where we've been playing clips from old shows and getting the comedians on to talk about their sets, a sort of behind the scenes kind of thing.
Oh,
so we've adapted quite nicely, and actually, because people don't have to leave their home, audience wise, I didn't think anyone would watch a sort of compromised version of a live show, because everyone's got Netflix and Amazon and everything's on the telly. But what I didn't realise with this thing, Twitch, people send in their comments and they can heckle and they can engage. And unlike sort of entertainment on demand, this is going back to the old days where everybody watches something together, which you had to in the old days because there were only 3 channels. So everybody has a common experience that they can then talk about at work or interact with it. So actually the fact that it was live and the fact that you had to watch it then to partake in it then made it slightly more appealing than the fact that Netflix has everything and Amazon's got all the films you could possibly want. So we got far more viewers and feedback than I could ever have imagined. So like everything that's happened with Excess Malarkey over the past 23 years, it's been a mistake, it's been a success quite by mistake and quite by accident. But I'm happy with that,
That's amazing.
I seem to have something's happened to my device now. Hang on. Let me see if I can find you back again. With modern technology, there we are. Sorry, something happened with my phone then.
No problem at all. No, that's incredible. I mean, what's it like doing stand-up to a camera effectively with no audience? I mean, how does that differ from playing live on stage?
Well, it's definitely been a learning curve. I mean, the very first one I did, I very much aped what I would have done on stage.
Right.
And that required a bit of what we call tits and teeth, plaster on the smile and just go for it, even though you're getting nothing back.
Yeah.
But as it's gone on, I've sort of learned, and we've sort of learned from what other acts have come on and done that's been successful. So one of the first acts we had is a guy called Will Duggan, who's a very good stand-up. But what he did was, instead of doing his stand-up, he went, I'm going to make a quarantini, which is a quarantine cocktail. And he basically just went through all the old booze in his house and made these disgusting cocktails. And that was his sort of 15-minute set.
Oh,
and I
brilliant.
thought that's good, because what he's done is he's adapted to the circumstances. It's funny and it's entertaining, but he's made it right for this gig, if you like. So I've got a bit more. I present a radio show on Radio 4 Extra, where I'm much more sort of chatty and intimate, and not chasing the laugh every couple of seconds, because you can take a little bit longer. And as you know, you're sort of welcoming people in. So I've started playing it a bit like that and calmed down a little bit. So it's sort of constantly adapting and getting, and you get feedback from these things. And my other half's in the other room watching it as it goes out, because it's on the telly. I don't know how that works. So we're sort of learning as we go along, because it's an uncharted territory.
So with the gags and that, I mean, do you like do you have to sort of, when you do a line, do you have to sort of pause for a few seconds where the laugh would normally be before you sort of carry on with the next joke? I mean, do you have to sort of take that into consideration?
Yeah, and we've been experimenting, and the jury is still out, because on Zoom, which is how we're doing it, you can have it that you hear the other comics, because everybody who's on the show is there throughout.
Okay.
So, but what they do is, when I'm talking, they will favour my screen, so I can see, but the audience can't, all the other participants. And that can be quite off-putting, because they're all worried about what they're about to do. So you do a joke and you look at them for approval and you get nothing. But the other thing was, we experimented with leaving their volume on, so that if you said something funny and they laughed, you could hear it and then time yourself a bit better. And that was great for the performers. Unfortunately, because of the technology, it meant that the people at home, their devices favour the loudest noise. So if there's a big loud laugh, it then cuts off the next bit of what the person's saying. So it was slightly awkward, but we've tweaked it, and we think this week we've got a way where we can marry it and get the best of both worlds. But that's an example of how we're sort of, changing it as it goes along and working out what works best. And actually, some comics, we ask them, we say, do you want to hear the laughter or do you not? And some said yes and some said no. And that was interesting as well. The ones that, felt that they could trust their own rhythm, and the ones that really felt the need to feed off other people's noise. I think I prefer to hear the laughter. But then again, some of the acts prefer to have the Twitch comments on the side of their screen. Right. And I will not have that, because all it will take is somebody to go, I hate him, or something. And that would ruin my evening.
It's a distraction as well. It's hard to kind of, I mean, I've done it on this one, I've been broadcasting, and obviously the chat log's going off on the right hand side, and I'll be mid through a sentence, and all of a sudden I'll see a comment out of the corner of my eye, get distracted, and I just stop sort of mid sentence. And obviously they're like, why has he stopped talking? But in my head, I'm sort of trying to respond to this comment that's come up. And yeah, I can imagine it must be very, very distracting. But I say, the thing with the fact that you can hear the audience laughing, it's amazing. I mean, we're all adapting to this, and we're all learning new things. I think it's, I think we'll all come out of this a little bit brighter than when we went in. It's been quite an experience. So you got a gig tonight. Who's have you got on tonight? Who are your guests?
Well, we've got Mrs. Barbara Nice, who was on Britain's Got Talent, and Phoenix Nights. We've got Jess Foster-Q, who was nominated for the top award at Edinburgh this year. We've got Adam Hess, who is a brilliant, slightly surreal, offbeat comedian who's really, really funny. A guy called Stuart Laws, who's another comic who's very much got his own rhythms and is very inventive, and one other, and I can't remember who that is off the top of my head, but we have 5 comedians, and we've got the pick of the comedians because everyone's at home. So we've had Nish Kumar on, we've had Dave Acaster, we've had Ed Gamble. We've had really top draw comics every week. Tom Allen we had last week. Andrew O'Neill. So we've had really, really strong lineups because everyone's doing it from the comfort of their own home. And I'm constantly amazed at who we get. Robin Ince we had on as well. I'm constantly amazed, and it's great.
That's brilliant. And are these saved as well? Can we watch these back? Do you have them on the site?
Yeah, it stays on. It's on Twitch. It's on the XS Malarkey channel on Twitch, and I think the shows stay up for a couple of weeks. I think. Brilliant. Yeah. So they do stay up for a bit. Yeah.
Well, I'll put a link to your site down in the description later on. So if people want to go and check that out and join in with you tonight as well, which I might be doing myself, that'd be great. But it seems strange because obviously you're the host and compere of the night. So it seems strange for me sort of introducing you, and it's normally you that's doing the introductions. It's strange. I think. There was a time, because I used to work at a club down in Reading, and I remember a time you came down to the Highlight down there, or Genres it used to be called.
Yes.
And cause
I compared there once, and there was a fight. Was
there?
I disappeared downstairs to get a packet of crisps or something, and I did a bit of tweeting or whatever, checking it, and I innocently wandered back up, and they went, "Where the hell have you been?" And I went, "Well, that's fine. I haven't missed, because you get a comic on and they do 20 minutes, so I don't have to watch it like a busman's holiday." They went, "There's just been a massive fight between those two tables." But Gordon Southern was the comedian. He's a brilliant comic, and he just rode it out, and he just sort of did a running commentary on the fight.
Well, what do you do? I mean, it's got to be a tricky situation for any comedian to, find themselves in. Heckling's one thing, but when, there's tables and chairs flying across in front of you, it must be a bit...
Do you know what, though? No, I actually think it's a no-lose situation. I think sometimes with comedy, if a situation is really out there, out of the ordinary, and, just a disaster, a fight is a disaster, there's not much you can do to make it worse. And I think that brings out the best in you, and it brings out the best in people's responses to you. Because just keeping going, sometimes people go, "Blimey," they're keeping going. But that's actually an instinct that we have. It's actually when things are a bit dicier and there's just somebody who's just deliberately unpleasant or just keeps jumping in on punchlines. And the sort of pesky, nitpicky ones are actually worse than out-and-out disasters.
Yeah.
Because for some reason you dig deep and save it.
Well, I suppose there's like sort of banter heckling, and then there's people that are just there to kind of ruin it for other people, which is...
Yeah, it's an exercise in trust. It's easy to ruin. You can ruin a stage play very easily because you and the audience are counting on somebody not going, "Well, you're not in an actual house, you're in a theatre," and it's easy to ruin comedy. All you have to do is just jump in on a punchline, or just hiss, or just niggle and spoil it. It's easy to ruin. We do require sort of cooperation.
And that's kind of what you do as well when you do you sort of compare and you're hosting. I know that you kind of set the ground rules for the show and just sort of say, guys, it's not all about you. There's people around you. Please make sure you respect the people around you, and all that kind of stuff, like the housekeeping sort of rules.
I'm very much the police. Yes.
Yeah.
Are you sure you should be sitting so close to each other? I used to come down. I used to be quite hard and quite harsh, but over the years, I've realised that the easiest way and the best way to do it is to be very open and pleasant and disarming, and then anybody that does want to be a bit of a pillock, it makes them look bad because I've been so amiable. I very much about, this is all about the night, and it's great if you want to have fun, but if you want to heckle, that's what I'm here for. And so I try and take the flack and soak it up myself. But by the same token, though, but if you're a bit of an idiot about it, I will come down quite hard. But I try generally to be as nice as possible, so that then it actually reflects badly on the person that's trying to spoil that atmosphere anyway. And the audience go, why is he being such an idiot? And so when you then get the rest of the audience on your side as well, that's the momentum that carries you through sticky situations, actually. Yeah.
So, I mean, Other than having a brawl kick-off, what's the sort of worst kind of heckle you can recall? Is there anything sort of particularly bad that stands out?
Yeah, well, there was a guy at the Comedy Store, which is a club I love playing, and I have a regular show there every other Sunday. And he was just really needly. He was really annoying. And I dealt with him, and the audience, I think, the audience thought he was more of an idiot than I thought they did. So I was still being quite nice. I thought I wanted to call him all the names under the sun because he wasn't witty. And he'd sort of join in, and then I'd try and engage him, and then he'd sort of block it. So it was the worst of both worlds. When I didn't want him to join in, he did. When I then tried to engage him to sort of diffuse it and make it fun, he was then he was not very pleasant. And anyway, so we were doing a bit, and I got the audience back, and I got the rhythm to get the next act on, and it was all going great. And he chipped in something, and then I said something, and it got a bit of a laugh. But I made it sort of quite pleasant. It was a sort of pleasant put down. And I went, there you go, mate. And he went, ha, ha, ha. And I went, great. So I sort of went to shake his hand as if to say, so, all right, shut up now. Let's try. And he pulled me. And I came off the stage and I cut my shin open and hit which is just the most idiotic thing. And just a sign of what a Burke this guy was. Neither he nor I were bargaining what happened next. I've never been in a fight in my life, but before I knew it, I punched him.
Brilliant.
My reaction, because I smashed my shin, cut my trousers open, cut my leg open, and before I knew it, I was back on the stage having punched him in the face.
Wow.
And so then, never mind Gordon Southern at Jongleurs having to talk through a fight, I then had to get the audience back who just seen me punching, and I'm shocked myself. Fortunately, what I hadn't realised, because I'm going, oh my god, they all thought he was an idiot, and so I was really apologetic, and actually the audience's response was, no, that was, it was still a little bit awkward, but the awkwardness wasn't about me, and he was taken out by the bouncer, and I went round and I said, look, I shouldn't have done that, and he was still a bit of an idiot. But he was a little bit backtracky because it turned out he was a fledgling doctor, I think, who was out with his consultants.
Oh, wow.
So he was suddenly, I think, had realised that he'd been a bit of an idiot. And actually, as it then, and I said, look, for peace's sake, let him back in, because I felt bad about what had happened. But actually, when the bouncers brought him back in, the whole audience booed him, which again, I hadn't realised. I thought they might have a problem with me. They were going, no. And then he continued to be an idiot, and then he was rude to the staff, and then he was rude to the manager. So actually, he was ultimately kicked out, and I felt much, much better. But my initial response was, oh my God. But it really hurt. I've still got a scar there, so so it's total shock. And just the sort of, what sort of an idiot would you be to go, so the comedian has gone to shake my hand because we've had a bit of banter and he's clearly moving on to get the next bit on, or pull him off the stage.
Well, again, it's clearly, someone that thinks it's all about him. Which is a shame. Again, you make it quite clear at the start of your shows, it's, we're all here to see a show. We've all paid money to come and enjoy ourselves, have a laugh. So it's a shame when you do get these sort of solitary people that do decide that it's going to be about them and want to ruin it for everybody else. But yourself and a lot of your colleagues that I've seen do handle it really, really well. There's a reason you don't heckle comedians, because you do it for a living and they don't.
And it doesn't happen as often. It's the most common question when people find out you're a comedian. They say, oh God, how do you deal with heckles? Actually, heckles are not as common as you would think. You sometimes get a bit of noise or a bit of this and that and the other, but actual engagement with heckles doesn't happen. Or maybe I'm just doing the gigs now that are better behaved, or maybe I've been going long enough that I can shut it down. But I certainly don't feel it as much as I used to. And they're not. They're not things that happen as often as I think punters think, oh God, it must be something that you get every show, and it's not at all. And sometimes a heckle is quite a funny chip in. It's very rare nowadays that I think you really. The worst is chat. Chat is worse than a heckle. You can engage with a heckle. Chat is just like white noise, and it throws out your rhythm, and it makes it really, really hard. and it's difficult to pinpoint. Those bigger gigs where they're in the dark, and you go, there's something's distracting me and the audience, but I haven't got a clue where it is. And if you can't see them, you can't engage with them.
Well, that's the thing when you're on stage. I mean, when you're sitting there in the audience, you're nicely lit up, but you don't realise that when you're on stage, you can't actually really see a thing. You can see like a couple of people in the first couple of rows, but after that, it's just a void of darkness, and so it's I can only imagine the frustration that you must go through. I mean, because obviously, you do gigs up here. I've worked with you down south as well, and obviously you do the Comedy Store in XS Malarkey. Am I right in thinking you work at another place in London as well? Is it Leicester Square?
The 99 Club in Leicester Square, where I was the regular MC every Wednesday for about 10 years, and then last year I went fortnightly because the travel was killing me, and then this year I've just gone to monthly, and it's very nice of them to still be keen to use me. But what was happening was it was getting to Wednesday again, and I was going, oh God, it's a 5-hour round trip, and it's a lovely gig to do, and I'd always go, I've got to stop doing this, and then I'd go and do the gig and love it because it is a really, really good club. I'd go, I can't not do it, and so I did the fortnightly as an experiment, and still loved doing the gig, but still every Wednesday came around like clockwork. So, well, if I do it monthly, that's 12 gigs a year. I still do that lovely gig. I can still do the things, because what I do is I do other work in London while I'm there. So I'll go and interview somebody, or do a bit of research, do a bit of this or that, or try and tie some meetings up. But it's only 12 a year, and I can sort of plan that slightly better. So that was the plan this year, and then all travel was stopped. So I've only done it once this year, I think.
And I suppose if it's not as frequent, it kind of gives you something to look forward to as well. It's not kind of routine; it becomes more of an event, I suppose.
Yeah, well, yes, that's true, and there's always really good comics on, and so I can concentrate more on that, more on the fact that yes, I'm going to go to London, I'm going to go and gig with these people, and that's what it's about rather than the journey. So yeah, I'm hoping that I'll settle into a routine, and I'll be able to plan it a bit better and book my train tickets in advance and do all that sort of thing that makes it cheaper. It's sometimes the pesky side of stand-up that people don't think about is the practical, the planning. Somebody once said, we don't get paid for the gigs, we get paid for the travel, because there is a big difference between getting a train ticket on the day and booking it 3 months in advance. But then if you book it 3 months in advance, you have to tie to 2 particular trains. So I could book the 5 o'clock train to London to be at that gig, but then I might get an audition at 1:30 that afternoon, and you go, oh, that's perfect because that ties in with the gig, but I've already bought a ticket, so now I have to buy another ticket. So in saving money, I've ended up spending more money. So it never all falls into place as it should.
I've just noticed the T-shirt you've got, and obviously you're a massive Doctor Who fan.
Yeah.
So, well, tell me about Doctor Who, because I mean, I know you do some acting as well. You've been in a few bits and pieces over the years, and I think I've seen on your site that you do sort of chats with some of the cast from Doctor Who sometimes. Do you? Or...
Yeah, I did a podcast in 2013 because it was Doctor Who's 50th anniversary, and I was going through a divorce and was in a bit of a bad place and needed something to do. And somebody suggested, because I tracked it, because I'm a bit of a nerd and a Doctor Who archaeologist, I'd tracked down people who'd never been interviewed before for DVDs and things like that. And somebody said, why don't you interview somebody from every Doctor Who story in the anniversary year and do it as a podcast? And I went, and I was a bit lost. So I went, yeah, all right. And I didn't think much more about it, sent a few feelers out, and then ended up interviewing all sorts of people, and some quite... And I decided not to do the usual suspects, people who've been interviewed a lot before, because that would be easy, because I know all these people because I met them at conventions. I went for sort of, say, a famous actor that was in one story in the 60s, or somebody who's got, was a rubber monster in one episode, or a boom operator, because their stories have never perhaps been told. And I interviewed them not just about Doctor Who, I interviewed them about their whole lives. So then there are good stories about other theatrical or cinematic ventures, but also a woman who just come out the other end of a battle with cancer, a guy that when he was younger was co-opted into the French Foreign Legion and forced to serve in the French Foreign Legion, had brilliant stories about. So suddenly it became a sort of listening project, but built around the phenomenon of Doctor Who. And I've interviewed, and I've got about 5 in the can that haven't been released, but there's 250 episodes. Wow. And I was supposed to just do it in 2013, but I carried on a little bit as other people came out of the woodwork. But now I sort of look at it and go, and there are people still coming forward or people being suggested to me, but I just look at it a bit like those London trips. I go, I've sort of done that now, and it was exhausting. And I look back now and go, I don't know how I did that, and now I've got to do other things. So it's a shame because I've really enjoyed it, and I look back at the achievement of it, but I've got to do something else. But it was great, it's an amazing body of sort of material. But
it's been running for such a long time. It's it's quite a phenomenon. The whole Doctor Who series, the whole franchise is just.
And it's made a big difference to my career because I was a comic. I was the MC at XS and a busy working stand-up comedian. But then I went to Edinburgh in 2006 with my first ever Edinburgh show, and a friend of mine said, if you're going to do an Edinburgh show, do it about something that you love. That'll get you to do the passion to do a show that's an hour long and to make people want to sit with you for an hour. So I did a show about my love for Doctor Who, and it was just at the time that Doctor Who had come back and was being successful again. So Doctor Who was very much in the air, but also I did it as a show that you didn't have to be a Doctor Who fan to understand any of the jokes. So it wasn't a show for Doctor Who fans. Right. And as a result of all of those things, it did really, really well. And it went to the West End, and I got a radio series version out of it. And I came to the attention of the Doctor Who people, because it had always been a very solo pleasure. So then suddenly I'm on the DVDs and doing these sorts of things. And so it completely opened up another part of my career where my childhood hobby is now sort of part of my working life.
That's got to be the ultimate dream, really, hasn't it?
So, and I've ended up, and I've been in Doctor Who audio adventures with Tom Baker, so I've ended up acting with my childhood hero. I got an email from him the other day, and you still have to pinch yourself a little bit and go,
it's incredible.
If I'd said to my 10-year-old self, out in the countryside in the middle of nowhere, where even somebody from the telly was, let alone my favourite programme, was like amazing, that I would now know and work and consort with these people. He wouldn't have believed it. It would have been like you're saying you're going to go into outer space.
It's truly incredible. It really is. Fair play to you, Toby. That is brilliant. You've done like sort of smaller roles in various productions as well. I believe did a walk-on role in, was it Casualty or Holby City at one point? I was the
walk-on role. I was the guest lead.
Oh, my apologies.
But yes, I played a character. I was in a Christmas episode, and I played a character who was waiting for a lung transplant. But I had a thing called situs inversus, which means my heart and my lungs were the wrong way round. But that character was a science fiction geek. So I don't know how I got the part.
Nice.
And his whole shtick was that he was a bit of a loner and a bit of a geek, and on Christmas Day he would always watch The Matrix, which is his favourite film. So he's in hospital, but he's got his DVD of The Matrix, and he's desperate to watch The Matrix. And at the audition, they said, I got the script, and one of his lines was, I'm the world's biggest fan of The Matrix. I've seen it 18 times. And I said at the audition, I know people like this. 18 times is nothing. I said, you need to add at least another 100 to that. Yeah. But they actually put that in the script. They changed the script.
Really?
So that they said 118 times. Because people, I said any science fiction fans watching that will go, 18 times is nothing.
Do that in a week.
But I started out as an actor, and I still consider myself that in my heart first and foremost. It's harder to earn a living as an actor, and I wouldn't have been able to do any of the things that I do if I hadn't dabbled in stand-up and become a busy stand-up quite by accident. So I do a lot of radio acting. I'm lucky that Radio 4 use me a lot. I do a lot of voiceovers as well. But you know, if I could be granted any wish work-wise, it would be to do more of the acting side of things. I did a film last year with Eddie Izzard and Judi Dench and Jim Broadbent that is supposed to come out. It was getting its national release at the end of May, and then it was 300 cinemas nationwide, and then a worldwide release. But that's all gone. That's all been kiboshed.
Yeah,
I don't know.
been
I
pushed
haven't heard
back.
what they're doing for sure, but it's you know, it's Jim Broadbent, Judi Dench, and Eddie Izzard. I'm much further down the cast, and that is quite a small part, but still nice to be part of, and a feature film. And I've done lots of stage acting. I've worked at the Royal Exchange, and you know, I'd do Shakespeare on stage if I was only allowed to do one thing, but real life gets in the way, you know.
Oh, it's annoying, that, isn't it?
Yeah,
But,
I've been lucky. It's very easy to look at all the things that you haven't done, but you know, the secret is not to get bitter about it. The worst thing that happens to very good and talented people, and I've seen it, is people to get angry about the fact that it's not happened for them in the way that they would like. But you know, it's a very difficult career with a lot of competition and a lot of disappointments, and the thing is not to let those get to you, because everyone suffers. And I know some actors who are really, really successful, and they feel exactly the same about me. You look at them and you go, "You've got no problems at all." And they go, "Oh yeah, but I didn't even get an audition for that major movie," or "Oh, I didn't get that," or "That person gets all the parts that I go." So whatever level you're at, there are those frustrations, and I think some people lose sight of that, is that actually the answer is not to look for happiness in your job, because if I won an Oscar tomorrow and was cast as Doctor Who, it wouldn't fill whatever those holes are emotionally. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's not the secret. That I would still then be going, yeah, but why isn't there a Doctor Who movie? Or why didn't I get nominated for an Oscar? There's you know, it will never give you the happiness that you seek, because you're looking for the happiness in the wrong place. So I think I think it could be very dangerous for people to hold too much stock by their work as the thing that's the answer to all their problems, because I don't think it is. Which is why Whitney Houston, you know, died full of drugs in a bath, and you'd think she had everything. Do you know what I mean? It's the tragedy of it, really. Not saying that my life is a tragedy, but I think it's easy for people to forget, and I do, but to forget how fortunate you are in a way, because there's always those things that haven't worked out how you want them to.
Yeah, I mean, very inspiring words. We're all guilty of, you know, the old fable, the grass is greener on the other side. We're all guilty of it, but you're exactly right. It's not a case of what you wish you had. You know, you've got to look at what you've got and be thankful that you know, you've got your health and you've got what you have in front of you. It's very, very inspiring words there. Toby, listen, I know you're a busy man. I really want to thank you for your time. It's been great having
Well, I'm
you
sorry
on.
I spent some of it walking up and down the stairs. I was delivering a focaccia bread to somebody who's bedridden today.
Absolutely no problem at all. Yeah, so like I say, I'll leave a link to the XS Malarkey site down below, so that people will be able to tune into your show tonight. But, you know, best of luck with everything that you're doing. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Great to have a catch up, and I will see you again soon.
Lovely to see you. Great to see you.
Likewise, Toad. All the best, mate. Thank you very much. See you in a bit.
Cheers. Take care.
So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you've not yet subscribed, make sure you hit that red button and ring the bell so I can notify you every time I upload a new video or do a live stream. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you again soon.